There's an old saying in comic books that goes a little something like this. If at first you don't succeed, try to send it to a different grading company for a higher grade. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So, interesting post coming out of comic book social media land. We have this one from the Atomic Comics, who actually recently shared a new pickup in his collection, a More Fun Comics 73, of course, the first appearance and origin of not just Aquaman, not just Green Arrow, but most importantly, Speedy, a triple first appearance, an amazing Golden Age Grail comic book. Except there's one thing about this. This book has been in not just CGC, not just PSA, but also CBCS slabs. And in this video, I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about that, how this book has become sort of the town bicycle. It's kind of gotten around to all the different grading companies. And I thought it would be kind of fun to compare grading notes to see how these companies evaluated this book. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I appreciate it. Helps support the channel, doing those things. And also, a little bit of a shout out coming up this Saturday, November 1st. Comic Book Boys is having another signature auction. They got an amazing Spider-Man #1 and a CGC 2.5, an Iron Man 1 and a CGC 9.0. Of course, they have tons and tons of raw books, Bronze Age, Copper Age, Silver Age, every age. My mom's age, dad's age, everybody's age. And here's the best part. I got a promo code for the auction. If you use swag at checkout, that is swag, SWAG, you will save 5% on your orders at this auction. 5%, that could be huge. Imagine this. Imagine you spend $10 million. You would be saving $500,000. That's cbbauctions.com, the Comic Book Boys, this Saturday, November 1st. Use promo code SWAG at checkout. Maybe you'll win one of those graded comics, and you'll be able to crack it out and get an upgrade at a different grading company, just like the Atomic Comics did as well. All right, let's take a look at his post and kind of dive into this story. This is what he had to say. A little bumperoo on a recent pickup from the latest Heritage Signature auction. This one has always been on the list, seldomly comes up for auction in a nice mid-grade at a reasonable price. I found the third photo on IG last night from 2019. This little beauty has been in a CBCS, PSA, and now CGC holder. I think I like the CGC holder best, outside of the dust shadow and the stain on the back cover, which doesn't go through it. A very nice copy of an 84-year-old comic with 2 legendary first appearances. Shots fired at Aquaman. Obviously, the legendary first appearances he's talking about is Green Arrow and Speedy. But let's take a look at this book right here. And I think that this was kind of an interesting story because if you guys remember at the last Heritage auction, they had this book in a PSA slab. We talked about how this was going to be a very, very significant sale in terms of, what it means for the secondary market values of PSA slabs. This was going to be probably at that time their highest valued book that would have gone up for sale. And it definitely would have been a big test, being that it was a golden age key at that. A lot of people are speculating that, with PSA, can they capture the modern market? Can they capture the copper age market? Absolutely. There's a lot of ASM 300s that people would be happily sending into PSA. Feels like there's a lot of crossover for that customer base. But as far as golden age books are concerned, CGC has had, that market cornered for a very long time. There's a lot of trust in there. And so it was going to be a big deal depending on what this book sold for. And based on the number that it actually did sell for, around $40,000 in some of our conversations, depending on how you look at it, it either underperformed or performed the same, if not slightly down. But I digress on that. I want to talk about how this book has been in every single grading company's case. And not to mention, we actually have access to all of the grading notes for this book. And I thought it would be kind of fun to compare notes, literally, and see what these companies had to say. So back in 2019, this book was in a CBCS slab. It actually did have a sale. If I pull it up right here at the 4.5 grade, 2019 on Heritage Auctions, it sold for $32,400. We can absolutely tell that this is the same book because of the dust shadow right there. But let's take a look at the grading notes and see what CBCS had to say about this. They call it a 4.5 with cream to off-white pages. More on that one in a minute. And they said 1-inch tear, top of centerfold, sun shadows, front and back cover. So we know about the shadows right there. 10-inch crease, front cover spine does not break color. Spine stress does not break color. Small edge and corner wear, some breaks color. 3/4 inch stain, 1/3 piece off of top left back cover corner. 2.5 partial cup stain, center of back cover. So definitely a lot of stuff going on with that one. Let's hop over to the PSA one and see what they actually had to say. I got to point this out right away. In comparing the graders notes, I kind of wish it was put on different lines. I don't really like that it says spine stress and then comma, light 10-inch crease near spine, comma, sun breaks color. It was kind of nice that, you kind of just go down the list right here. And in CGC, if you guys know CGC, it's going to be the same sort of thing. So little note to PSA, that might be kind of nice to kind of bullet point it, but let's carry on here. Light 10-inch crease near spine. So that was very similar to that of the CBCS grading notes. Sun breaks color, front cover, edge wear breaks color, edge shadow, front and back cover. So definitely calling out the sun shadow or edge shadow, I guess. Sun shadow is what CBCS called it, but then edge shadow is what PSA is calling it. Small corner off of top left of back cover with small page corners off below. So I do think that CBCS called that as well. Edge corner, sun breaks color, and then stains, 1-inch tear, top of centerfold. And there you have it, 1-inch tear, top of centerfold. So pretty similar as far as like PSA and CBCS, grading notes, calling it like what it is. Of course, we had the conversation about how CBCS was coming after the head grader of PSA for quote unquote stealing insider secrets or trade secrets. So we kind of felt like maybe the grading of CBCS and PSA would be somewhat similar. And certainly in the case of this book, it is similar. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting because we hop over to CGC now. Of course, I guess Atomic Comics is the one that won the book off of Heritage Auctions and got that deal on the PSA slab, cracked it out. I assume, did another little clean on it, probably did another little press on it, gave it the best chance it could, and got the 0.5 bump. And this is what CGC had to say, most notably, light tan to off-white pages. So CGC being a little more harsh on the page quality, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, you wouldn't think that going from this book that was sold earlier this year into a CGC slab would all of a sudden lower the page quality of this, but I guess it could have in theory, over the time in which it was exposed to, the air in these last couple months, it could have lowered the page quality. I mean, I don't really know what the chances of that are, but I thought that was kind of a big deal that even though it got the bump to the 0.5, the page quality going down, as far as golden age collectors are concerned, I think page quality is very, very important to them. But this is what CGC's graders notes were. It says reader's crease front cover, which I guess is kind of comparing the light 10-inch crease near spine, which is the other grading companies had. Then it says tear with crease left bottom of back cover, which is kind of an arbitrary thing. Stain center of back cover. So that's kind of referring to the stain that this one pointed out, 2.5-inch partial cup stain, center of back cover. And then it says chip out of left top of back cover, which there's a little chip up there, and it kind of not really the same notes. And then I thought that it was interesting because CGC didn't actually notate that this had sort of the sun shadows or the edge shadows. But maybe the graders notes are not including that because I guess you can see it clearly on the book, and so they don't really want to call that out. But there you guys have it, a 0.5 bump on the More Fun Comics number 73, but a decrease in page quality, and probably, at least at this current moment in time, as far as I know, the only book that has been in all three grading company holders. It's very, very interesting to kind of follow this. And I felt like talking about it, or at least putting a little bit of a spotlight on it, because I do think overall, as far as like what we can all make of this, or the bigger takeaway is that, this is a good time if you're somebody who actually likes grading. I know that a lot of people out there are still anti-grading or feel that grading is a scam. I understand you guys. I see the comments. I hear you. But I just think that, having the options to be able to go from one company to the next, it's such a good thing for the hobby and for collectors. I mean, competition should yield better results from these companies. But again, there also is a little bit of a flip side. I kind of joked about it at the beginning. If at first you don't succeed, try another grading company. I mean, we really do have that option where now people can, take a comic book that they're not happy with. Maybe they don't like the grade. Maybe there's some resto on it. Maybe they feel like a certain grading company has been too harsh on it, and you can crack it out and send it to a different company and maybe get the results that you want. And I think that this is an important note to collectors. Everybody at the end of the day always looks at the label and buys the grade. I know that the saying is buy the book, not the grade, but that's just not how people operate. But I bring all these examples up to you guys and the importance to demonstrate that you really do have to buy the book and not the grade. Because even with these companies, even though it's pretty close overall, I mean, from one company to the next, a zero point 0.5 difference could be a significant bump in value. I mean, I have a feeling that, if this More Fun Comic 73 went up for sale today, or at least, say in the next year or so, it's definitely going to get a higher number than the PSA comic book did. And the PSA comic book got a higher number than the CBCS one did. Of course, it sold back in 2019, so it's not really apples to apples. But the point being that at the end of the day, it's still the same book. Yet the fact that it says a 5 on it, and the fact that the grader's notes are maybe not as elaborate on the CGC one, means that this is probably going to yield more money the next time it sells. And so do yourself a favor, make sure you know what book you're buying, and don't always focus in on the label or the grade. Anyways, that's all for this video. That was me just talking about this More Fun Comics. I thought it was kind of cool to see this book jumping around, town bicycle, going from one grading company to the next. Let me know what you guys think about all this. Do you guys have any other examples of books that have been sent between all three grading companies at this point, especially that of like a golden age book or a high grade, silver age book, something of, significant value? I think it's really cool to see how the grading companies approach these things. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, cbbauctions.com this November 1st on Saturday. Use promo code SWAG. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you all in the next video.